This is the Undefeated Sports Network. Sport Court, and Court is in session.
What's up, everybody? Good evening, and welcome into another episode of Sport Court right here on the Undefeated Sports Network. As always, I am Andrew Tarbill. To my left is the man, the myth, the legend, Angelo Ace Camacho. What's up, Ace? How we doing tonight, brother?
What's up, Tarbill? I'm doing good, man. A lot of fun baseball at Wrigley the last couple days, and the Bulls are in the play-in tournament. Speaking of, I'm going to check in on that score real quick because last I checked they're down by 9 right now at the end of the third, 81-72.
Okay.
So I mean it's
still a chance to come back. They always seem to beat the Raptors, right? I think they've won the last 7 matchups there, if I do recall correctly.
I was expecting a little bit bigger of a game from DeMar just because that's his old team. I figured he would step up,
You figured he would ball out from the mid-range because he doesn't shoot threes.
Right, because he can't. But yeah, I mean, I thought Debo would go off. Levine is playing pretty well, but I talked about this team to start the season, about how I thought this team was awful, that was in a worse spot of any Chicago sports team. I still feel that way. If you win this game, they're in an even worse spot because then they have no shot.
Well, and I was going to say that's the problem, right, is winning this game tonight does nothing for you because if you play your way in, you're not going to advance. This team is not beating any of the powerhouse teams in the division. They're just not.
No shot.
So
you're going to be able to stand a chance against the Bucks?
Of course not.
No way.
We've seen it all season long. I mean, there's just not enough talent on this roster, and it's a sad thing to say. Let's go ahead and jump right into this Bulls talk, though, Ace. I think that ultimately the Bulls team is in a rough spot, right?
Now they're losing by 12. So
you've said it all season long that ultimately this team was going to be the worst team in Chicago sports.
I did.
And that they have, with the Blackhawks being a close second.
At least the Blackhawks, they look to rebuild. They got rid of everybody they needed to get rid of. So,
right. So looking at tonight's game, I saw Pat Bev on his podcast a couple nights ago was talking about he was going to go off tonight and give them something special and whatever. But looking at this team, let's just go through the roster and evaluate each position from the starting 5.
All right. I like it. Let's do it.
So go ahead and pull up that starting 5 for me, Ace, for tonight's game.
Do you want just for tonight's game?
Tonight's game specifically.
All right. So the starting 5 was DeRozan, Patrick Williams, I believe. No, maybe not. Hold on. I'm looking right now.
Should be DeRozan, Patrick Williams,
Levine, Vooch.
Zach Levine, Vooch.
And I think Caruso.
Okay, that was really the position I was unsure of. Was Caruso going to be starting at guard?
Yeah, he started.
So, looking at this team, that starting 5, Alex Caruso is a 6th man at best. Do you agree? He's not a tried and
at
true
best.
starter
Yes, a 6th man at best
at the point guard position. Obviously, DeMar DeRozan is a great mid-range shooter. He's a decent defender, but as we've alluded to so many times, this game has evolved so much in a way that now we do not rely on the mid-range normally, right? So he's of a dying breed. He's
Yeah,
not a
if
guy
this was
that's
like
going to go.
2003, fantastic. He would be top tier, but it's 2013 and the league is 3-point shooting. And if you can't shoot threes,
Is it 2013?
did I say 13?
You did.
I meant 23. I don't know, man. My brain's
So
kind of all over today, but
basketball in 2023 is largely dominated by the 3-point shot.
yep.
You've got Alex Caruso, not a guy that's known for dropping a ton of threes. As I said, probably a sixth man at best. You've got DeMar DeRozan, who's a great mid-range shooter, decent defender, doesn't put up the three ball. You've got Patrick Williams, who's scared to take a shot, period. And then you've got Vooch, who for some reason thinks he can shoot three-pointers, but has only hit
he'll get hot every once in a while, but
he will, but he's very streaky.
when you run your offense through him at the point, and he's missing wide open threes, what's the point of running the offense through him? You know what I mean?
And who was number 5? Who am I missing here? Levine. Obviously, we've talked about
Levine. Talk about big time Max Levine.
We've talked about Zach Levine till I've been blue in the face on this network, and I know the fans that have been tuning in with us for a while know exactly what I'm going to say. Zach Levine was not worth a max contract, and you have to move on from him. It just does not make sense for Zach Levine to be the one key piece that you hold and try to build around when you really need to dismantle this entire roster and build it from the ground up. The situation with Ball is an unfortunate one. Obviously, we have not seen the progression after the knee surgery that we would have liked to see. And obviously, there's talks of a third surgery that's going to put him out for an additional season.
Yep.
So we're looking at Ball not being able to play next season. Already sat out and missed this entire season, the tail end of last season.
And that's what I was going to say. Even if he comes back, let's say this surgery goes fantastic, he comes back, you're going to rely on a guy who hasn't played basketball at a competitive level in 2.5 years. 2.5 seasons he hasn't played.
So here's my biggest thing, man. I hate to compare the two because he's not on the level of this comparison when it comes to playtime, but Derrick Rose knee, man. That's what I instantly gravitate towards. It's like
every time somebody brings that up,
excellent when he's healthy. The guy's excellent when he's healthy, but can he stay healthy? And with Ball, horrible injury, obviously nothing that could have been planned or foreseen by this organization when they picked him up. But the reality of the situation is now you're going to be going into a situation with a guy who hasn't played competitive basketball in 3 years, due to injury or not. That's still a long time. He's getting on the later side of his 20s. So has his peak already passed? Did he already experience his peak before he joined the Bulls? And then
I think his peak is right now.
and
I think he joined the Bulls and he showed you that he had something and they were playing well, and then he got hurt. And now last season, this season, and next season
are
all
ruined.
seasons that were supposed to be his incline, but it plateaued because of the injury. So now you're looking at a guy, like I said, a guy who hasn't played basketball competitively in 2.5 seasons. What do you expect to get from him when he comes back?
Especially with the lack of, I don't want to say the lack of talent, but the lack of star power, the lack of good talent around him, I guess would be how I would categorize it, right? Because in the NBA, you have all-stars, then you have stars, and then you just have guys, right?
Right. More guys than stars and all-stars.
And this team has a bunch of guys in Zach Levine, who, by the way, even though he made the All-Star game, is not an all-star talent. I mean, ultimately, Zach Levine's he's a great number 2. However, we don't have that
number 3.
However, we don't have that number 1 piece on this team.
That's true.
That's
why this season once it started being the way it was, and they were the bottom of the conference, they were battling for the 10th spot and in and out of that position. Right. At that point, you found out Lonzo wasn't coming back.
It just took the wind out of the whole season, right?
It did, but the best thing for that team would have been to lose. Like, I know people are pissed off at the Mavericks because Mark Cuban, the last game sat everybody so that they could get into the play or the lottery, right? But that's good business. Like, if your team is struggling, is like right there on the cusp of being good, but not quite. The NBA has made it so that you would rather lose if you're not going to win.
Right. I mean, you look at the commissioner had to send out a memo at the beginning of the season telling teams not to intentionally tank for what's the kid's name? Is it Blanchero?
Isn't it?
The kid from Duke?
I think so, yeah. I don't know how to say his name, though.
You look at stuff like that, and it just shows how different the mentality is in the NBA. And the skill gap in the NBA is maybe greater than any other sport, and I may catch some backlash for that. Obviously, baseball and the farm systems and taking 10 years to bring guys up is one thing, but
I don't disagree with you at all, really.
When you look at the skill gap, so let's take our Bulls and compare them to, well, you have to compare them to the Bucks because the Bucks are the best in the conference, right? So the Bucks have built their team around Giannis Antetokounmpo, the ability to get in the paint and penetrate, giggity, and the ability to play good defense. They have an all-around strong roster where they can sub guys in and get the same level of production from their bench nearly as what they get from their starters.
Right.
A lot of those guys are interchangeable.
And a lot of them can hit the three.
Grayson Allen's a great example, obviously. Chris Middleton, excellent when healthy. You look at that roster top to bottom and you see the solidarity between the starters, the bench, and what the coaching staff and the organization are trying to do. You look at this Bulls team and the starting five would, I hate to say this, our starting five right now would not be a starting five for any other team in this league.
I think some guys would, but I don't think overall it's.
So Zach LaVine sure could be a starter in this league, but DeMar, I think, is probably a bench piece moving forward.
He's just getting
Bold
old.
Statement. He's getting old. I mean,
Right.
And then obviously Patrick Williams, I'm still up in the air on P. Will. I really hoped that this season he would kind of take that next step and find his comfort zone as a shooter. He hasn't done so thus far this season, and the season's basically over. So next year, is he going to find it? I don't know. It's frustrating as a Bulls fan because we had obviously the 90s Bulls, the 2-3-peats, and the highest level of basketball success ever attained happened right here in Chicago.
Right.
And then we fast forward to 2007 when we went to the finals with Rose against the Celtics.
Yep.
And ultimately lose that series, although that was a very good series. And then the Bulls have just kind of been hanging around in that mediocre zone.
Yep.
Ever since then. They haven't been good enough to compete with the top tier teams. We finally thought we had something when we were bringing in all of these pieces. When we brought in DeMar DeRozan and they brought in Ball, that was the time to make the push, and it just never came to fruition. So now you're in this awkward spot. If you manage to come back and win this game tonight,
Which now they're only down by 3.
okay, so if you manage to come back and win this game tonight, you do absolutely nothing for your organization. You
Nothing.
get playoff experience for guys. I guess that's the one bright spot. Maybe is you
all these
get
guys have playoff experience.
you
that's the
get
thing.
Io DeSumo some playoff experience.
They
Dalen
got it
Terry.
last year, and they got destroyed by the Bucks. That's literally true. What's going to happen if they win this game. They win this game, they face the Bucks, they get annihilated, probably swept, if I'm being honest. I know that
they might win one.
Maybe. This Bucks team is on a different level right now than the Bulls. It's not even close.
It's not even close. And that's the point I'm trying to allude to is the skill gap. The Bucks are here. The Bulls are here, and it's not even close. And that gap is so significant that it makes it difficult as a fan because you're stuck in this limbo. It's like you're in basketball purgatory, man. It's just like this team is never going to be, with the current structure and the current members, it's never going to be competitive. They need to do something big in this offseason and build through the draft. You have to get guys that are sustainable pieces for this organization moving forward. And that takes me into my next question for you, Ace.
Yeah.
Is Arturas, AK, I'm not even going to try to say his last name, is AK and Billy Donovan the right fits at head coach and GM moving forward? You know, we had for so many years, everyone hated Garpax and everything that they were doing.
Right.
And then we get AK and Donovan in here, and it seems like it's a breath of fresh air for the organization. Through injuries, through playing under expectation, it just hasn't came to fruition on the court this season, or last season at least. Obviously the year before, the team was fairly competitive, but are you sold on Billy Donovan? Are you sold on AK? Is it time for a change?
I mean,
you tell me.
So this is what, AK's third year, right?
Correct.
Third year. I haven't seen really any improvement. Sure, he was able to get Vooch. Then he was able to get DeRozan to come here. He got Caruso and Ball. Yes. Those are all, I guess, wins. But at the end of the day, they haven't built anything, man. It's the same team without Jimmy Butler on it. Like it's not good.
Here's the biggest thing. Look at where the roster was before AK came to the Bulls.
Right.
Look at where it's at now. Are you significantly better? The answer to that question is no. And for whatever reason, whether you blame injury, you blame guys not living up to their potential, he was able to attract some top-tier talent, and I do find value in that. Obviously, when DeMar came here, you're looking at 3 years ago now, a little bit younger, a little bit more athletic. The guy's on a decline due to age, and it happens to every player. But, you know, the four guys you just named there, none of them really lived up to the expectation that we as Bulls fans or us as commentators and podcasters thought they would. And it's frustrating because that's where you don't want to be in basketball. You don't want to be just an average team. If you're 7th through 10th in your side of the East and West, you're not benefiting.
Well, and here's the other thing, right?
If you're above that 7 to 10, you're not benefiting anything. The 3 through 6 spot means nothing, right? At the end of the day, if you're not competitive. And this team is not competitive. And looking at where they're at this season, I think it's a clear indication that something different needs to happen in the offseason. I am not a basketball scout. I don't scout basketball as much as I do football, self-admitted. So I couldn't tell you who the Bulls should go after in the draft in the offseason, but the skill gap is so significant in the NBA that this Bulls team has to do something and get it right if they want to be relevant in the years to come. And I think that comes in the form of a total rebuild, although people don't want to hear it.
Well, now they're winning 96-93. So
how much time's left on the clock?
5 minutes left.
A lot of time.
Hold on. Let me back up a little bit. We were talking about the, not being the 7 through 10, and even if you were and you had a draft pick, you could still figure something out. The problem with this season is, unless the Bulls lose, they don't have, they might still not have a draft pick, but they traded their draft pick, but it's top 4 protected. So you have to get lucky in the lottery, right? So you're looking at
that's not a spot you want to be in.
Right. So you're looking at a situation, you win this game, that's gone. You lose that draft pick. And then you're looking into next season because you're not winning the championship. No shot. So you're looking into next season and you're seeing, how do you fix this team in the offseason? You have no draft capital. You have aging guys. The only real piece to this team that you can utilize is Zach LaVine, right? Like that's really the only piece, especially because he's having himself a game tonight, and I'm going to look up his stats real quick. But... So,
excuse me. I do agree in that aspect that Zach LaVine will be the key marketable piece in this offseason. So do you take a guy like Zach LaVine and move on from him to get 2 to 3 players that are younger, more, I don't want to say more athletic because Zach LaVine's very athletic, but just 3 young guys, let's say one's a starter and 2 are good bench players. Do you make a move like that to solidify this roster a little bit, or what's your thoughts?
So my thought is, you're not really winning with him. It was the same thought I had for the Bears, right? Everybody was all mad about the Khalil Mack, deal, and then they didn't sign Hicks back. They got rid of Quinn and all these guys. Like your defense wasn't good with those guys. It's just like this team, right?
Right.
They're not winning with him. So what's the point? I always get flack for saying this, but like, if you know your team isn't good, right? I understand developing guys, young talent. You got to make these guys, pros, essentially. But if you're not, Milwaukee, Boston, Golden State, Phoenix, right? If you're not one of those teams, you might as well just try to get the first pick every time.
Ultimately, that's the sad reality.
Right.
And I hate the lottery system. I want to know your thoughts and feelings on the lottery system as well. I get it. They implemented it to try to more evenly distribute the top talent that comes into the league. But at the end of the day, it doesn't work.
No.
And
it incentivizes losing.
Right. That's exactly what it does.
Who wants to argue
You're doing
that point,
exactly...
It's what it is. Why?
You're doing exactly what you set out to avoid.
Right. And they were like,
by implementing...
we're going to do this and this and this. Yeah, then more teams are incentivized to lose. Like,
yeah, more teams are going to suck.
Right. Because everybody's going to want a chance at that top pick. Because in the NBA...
So you're saying there's a chance.
In the NBA, the draft, if you're, it's maybe top 4 are like real difference-making guys usually. You can find guys in the second round. Draymond was a second-round pick. Like, there's guys, right? But
typically your starters, your impact players are the first, let's say 6 players taken in the first round. It reverts back to the skill gap. The skill gap is so large in the NBA, and on a player level, even from the number 1 pick in the first round to the last pick in the first round, there is a significant skill gap that is visible, and you see it year after year. These teams that are mediocre, if they don't trade their future away to try to win now, which is what the Bulls ultimately did 3 seasons ago, you remain mediocre.
That's the guy. That was the guy you were like, yo, we have to have this guy. He's the guy we're going to give up all this draft capital for. What? That guy?
Unbelievable.
Sorry.
No, ultimately, man, I think that this team probably will manage to pull the win out tonight. Like I said,
Probably.
they've won the last 7 against the Raptors. It does nothing for them. It hurts them more than it helps them. And it hinders the growth of this organization further. What's the score now, Ace?
100-100. I need Vooch to have 3 more points and Debo to get 2 more points, and then I hit my parlay.
Do you have a 7-leg parlay that you bet
It's only
$3
4.
on?
I didn't want to go nuts. It's only 4. But, hey,
My guy.
if I'm going to watch terrible basketball, I might as well try to make some money off of it, right?
So we might as well tell the viewers that you won, what was it? Was it a 5-leg parlay on baseball at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, the first day of the season, yeah.
And how much
money?
money
it wasn't crazy.
And how much money did you bet?
I put $1 and won like 20. But I mean, hey, profit when you're betting, right?
If you would have dropped a 50 burger on that,
I know.
you'd be sitting pretty right now.
It was a 4-leg. It was the Cubs winning, the Sox winning, the Yankees winning, and the Mets winning. And it was the first day of the season, opening day, and
you got it all.
Mm-hmm. I don't win often, so don't take my betting advice. If you know my buddy Fat Mike, he can attest to the fact that my parlays are a bit extreme, I think, and I never really.
Your parlays are. I love you, my guy, but your parlays are stupid sometimes. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Most of the time. I always wanted to be like
high risk, high reward.
When they like post like some dude bets like a penny and wins $14 million, like that's the kind of luck I really want. Is hey, I'm gonna throw $1 on this like 10-leg parlay that has 0 chance of maybe like a 0.1% chance of happening, and then I get lucky and it hits, and I'm
like the guy that threw $5K on UConn at the beginning of the tourney and cashed out $85,000.
Yep. I need that kind of luck.
But you're not betting $5K, you're betting $1.
Oh, no shot, no $5K over here. Not yet. All these dollar bets, though, they go 20 here, 40 here, 60. Next thing you know,
we'll see what happens, man. But why don't we go ahead and take a quick break, Ace, and when we come back, we will transition and talk about some baseball. Of course, we will keep you updated on the game as well while we do that. So let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back with you guys in 40 seconds.
I'm undefeated. I came to fight for the love of the game. Unstoppable. That's why I'm undefeated. Off the leash, out of the cage, an animal. That's why I'm undefeated. I know I can beat it. Won't give up, 'cause I believe it. Fight for the love of the game. Unstoppable. That's right. I'm undefeated.
What's up, guys? Welcome back, and you are tuned into Sport Court right here on the Undefeated Sports Network. As always, I am your guy, Andrew Tarbill. To my left is Angelo Ace Camacho, and this is Sport Court. And
before we
Court
put
is
this
in
next
session.
graphic up, the Chicago Cubs are making me feel some type of way right now. And when I say some type of way, I mean, what better ways?
Do you feel like the future's bright? You like what I did there?
I mean, in our group chat, I'm pretty sure I just said that the Cubs were going to win the championship. So maybe I'm drinking the Cubby Kool-Aid and the Cubby Chubby is out, but
I think you're drinking the Kool-Aid. However, let's talk quick about how fantastic last night's game was, right?
It was.
Cubs are down 7-0.
Yeah.
It was 7-0, right?
Yeah.
And then they come back, the grand slam, everybody's going crazy, take the lead 8-7. Long game, lots of offense from both sides. Cubs end up putting up 14 runs last night to win. Obviously, they fell to the Mariners 5-2 this afternoon, but man, what an explosive offensive output it was last night. And that's the type of baseball that I love to see. I know there's guys that would love to go out there and watch a pitcher's duel or somebody throw a no-hitter. That's not me, Ace. I'm not.
I know. You don't like.
I'm not into that. When it comes to football, I don't like defensive battles. I like offense. Same with baseball. I like to see lots of runs scored. If there's more than 5 runs scored for me, that's a hell of a game. So the Cubs came out last night and were just slugging incredibly. And you look at this team, what they've done, the depth pieces that they still have yet to bring up. Suzuki's playing AAA ball for the Iowa Cubs right now.
Yep, he's not back yet.
This team is already firing on all cylinders. I mean, it's still early. Obviously, we're only, 11 games into the season as of today?
Yeah, 11 games.
And when you play 162, it's a long season.
11's not that big of a deal, really. Like when you're looking at a sample size for baseball,
it's 8% of the season.
Right. I mean, so like to start the season, they played the Brewers. They lost that series. They split the series with the Reds. They beat the Rangers. They won that series 2-1,
which surprised me, I will say.
And now they just beat the Mariners 2-1 in that series. If you go and you win series, I'm not saying you gotta win every night, but if you're taking 2 of 3, consistently, I'm not saying all the time, but consistently, you're gonna put yourself in the conversation for playoff hopes. Which, looking at the landscape, I think the Cubs have a real shot if they keep playing to this level. I think pitching is really where it's going to come down to if it can hold up or not. But if you're in a situation come the trade deadline where your team's looking good, you're maybe a piece or 2 away.
You go get a bridge guy like a Aroldis Chapman, like the Cubs did in 2016 when they won the chip.
Get a piece that can help maybe put you over that. I don't know if that's going to be this year. I feel like next season is the season for the expectations on playoffs and then going forward. But this year, I think it's more about, like the Ian Happs and Horner and, Suzuki and all these other guys that are still to be brought up.
Here's my thing with the Cubs. They said they were going to enter a total rebuild, and they did it. We saw the pieces stripped away in Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Kyle Schwarber, all of those guys. And we were disappointed. We were bummed as fans because those guys were guys that we grew a little emotionally attached to.
Yeah, I mean, they won the World Series, man.
Finally ended the streak, right?
Right, they're going to be legends in the city.
You look at what this organization's done. They said, we're going to tear it down and rebuild brick by brick. And that's exactly what they've done. You've got a competent pitching core now that really, if they perform to expectation, could be up there in conversations as top in the league by the end of the season. Again, if they perform to expectations. And you've got a lot of young bats who are able to get on base. And right now, again, still early, the Cubs are second in home runs in the league right now.
Yeah, that's the other thing I want to talk about, right? This offense, what have we been wanting from this Cubs team? And I know it is super early.
These are far too early.
The weather hasn't even warmed up yet, and the bats are already on fire. Just wait.
It's
I'm
wild.
Telling you, I got a feeling. Maybe not 16 vibes, 15. You make it to the playoffs, a little bit better than people expect. Make a little noise. Then you bring up the young talent next season, and off to the races.
Yeah, we got
that simple. I mean, it's that simple. I tweeted about Justin Fields having a breakout game. I'm saying it right now. Championship next year for the Cubs. That simple.
Okay. All right. Let's
get a little outlandish. But the Cubs did make some news over the last few days other than just playing well. they finally signed some of their own talent. That seemed to be a big problem the last few seasons with guys like you mentioned, Schwarber, Bryant, Rizzo, which if you look at the guys now, right? If you look where they're at now, we were all sad and emotional when it happened, but those guys are not right. I mean, if those guys were on this team making the money that they're making on those other teams,
this is a totally different squad.
The city is irate, but the Cubs, they're making me happy.
Go for it. Finish the second half of that statement.
Hold on. If my son is watching, he should be sleeping. If he is watching, cover your ears. Now, the Cubs have made me very happy and horny by signing Ian Happ and my boy Nico Horner.
Okay. I'm glad you were able to get through that read.
Oh, it's just a word. I don't care.
I didn't think I would without laughing, but all right. So ultimately, when you look at it, the Cubs solidify extensions with both Ian Happ and Nico Horner. The question here is, was this a good or bad move for the organization? I think this was an excellent move for the Cubs. I really like what Ian Happ brings to the table. He's a dynamic player. He gets on base. As Billy Beane would say, he gets on base. It's all... No, ultimately, I'm happy with the Ian Happ signing extension through 2026 specifically because I think he brings some diversity to the club. He's a guy that multiple position player. You can stick him anywhere out there and he'll do a decent enough job. The bat's been hot lately, hotter than normal. It's still early, but
I mean, without his hit, the Cubs, the rally doesn't kind of start. You know what I mean? And
right, exactly. He's a momentum guy.
Right.
Is what I'm ultimately trying to get at. Is he a difference maker for this team long term? I think that's yet to be seen 100%, but I really do like the re-signing. Nico Horner, again.
Nico Horner, let me just tell you what. Not only does he have an excellent name, right? But he's hitting 17 for 49. And I know if that was any other sport, people are like, oh my God, that's terrible. But that's start
not
the
terrible.
Season, he has won 2 games this season out of the 11 where he doesn't have a hit. Just 2. That's excellent. Especially for a guy that last season, I don't want to say struggled, but I don't think lived up to expectation when the Cubs acquired him.
No, I would agree, but here's the thing: you look at a guy like Nico Horner. He's only 25 years old,
right?
Which is young in baseball years. I mean, you look at some of the guys that sit in the farm system for 10 years before they come up. Some of these guys are 30 years old before they make their MLB debut. I'm 28, 29, but still, Nico Horner's only 25. He's developing as a second baseman and doing all the things right on that side of the ball. As you said, the bat has started relatively hot this year. 17 hits, only 2 games that he has not had a hit thus far this season. That's trending in the right direction. So, you look at like last night's game, there were a couple guys from Seattle that were 0 for 5 by the end of the night. And yes, it's baseball. Yes, it's tough to get on base and have that success long-term over 162 games, but I like what I'm seeing out of Nico so far. I think that this is kind of a make it or, I don't want to say make it or break it year. He just signed an extension, but this is kind of a proving ground year for him.
It's a year where I think he needs to have a pretty consistent year to give himself confidence going forward, but then to also give the front office confidence in him as well. Because like if you look at these 2 signings, right, what they're both 3 years, I think, right? And
yes, correct.
So basically what you're saying is this is the Bryant and Rizzo of this next group of guys coming up, right? So you want these 2 guys to be playing well and to be able to have a command in that locker room so that when you bring up guys like Armstrong and all these other guys, they come into a clubhouse where there's guys that have done it. They're playing at a high level. They're able to help these younger guys figure out the world of the big leagues. I think that's, to me, what this signing says is, hey, you two are the guys going forward for the next couple of years.
Right.
Set the tone for this rebuild going forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that statement more. I think that these signings do prove that the organization has faith in both of these young guys to be key pivotal pieces, building blocks, for the next few seasons. Right. And, as much as I really hated the move on from Contreras, he has started out in a slump this year, man.
I mean, so I know we all say, like, man, I love this guy. Wilson and Kyle Hendricks were the last two guys from the World Series team that were on this team, right? And once Wilson left, that was it. Boom. That World Series team, done. Now that's just a memory. It's going to live forever in infamy and Cubs fans' brains and sports history. But now it's time to realize, like, okay, maybe the front office isn't that bad at evaluating these guys. They have a price, right? And if these guys don't want the price, well, they can go somewhere else and get it. And I like that mindset. I like that philosophy. Ryan Poles does the same thing with the Bears, where he's like, hey, I got these guys, these players, I rank them like this. This is the range of salaries that we want to give these guys. If they don't want it, they can go. And that's business. Sports is a business. You have to set your team up with guys that are the bang for your buck method. You know what I mean? If you're going to pay all these guys and you got
sometimes
a guy like
you have to play Moneyball.
I mean, do you think the Rockies are regretting signing Chris Bryant?
Probably.
Right. Detroit thought they were going to get a superstar in Javi Baez. He hasn't done anything.
Javi Baez had one good season, and obviously that was 2016.
Right.
And that's been it. The guy looked like he was golfing for the last 2 years he was playing for the Cubs.
Man,
just
that
swinging
dude
at
with a curveball, I tell you what, he is rough.
How many times did we see on Twitter, they would post a still of him swinging at something so low it looked like he was swinging a golf club.
There were
and
pictures,
the ball's 4 feet outside the plate.
That's what I was just going to say. There's
like
pictures
it's not
of the
even
ball
close.
in the dirt, like you said, 4 feet in front of home, and he's swinging. No. I love Javi, right? I thought he was so fun to watch in the field. He's a tag master, right? Him and Contreras had that chemistry. It was awesome to watch. And what he contributed to the team defensively, you can kind of look past at the price range that they were paying him at, right? But now if you're going to pay these guys that money, you have to see more, just like Zach LaVine, right? Just like Horner and Happ. You're going to pay these guys now. Now we have to see you take that next step and be the leaders of this team. We want to win because of you. We need to see you guys go out there and set the example for everybody that's coming behind you.
Right. Oh, 100%. And I think that this team will have some sustained success in the years to come with the way that they've rebuilt this roster. And that was going to kind of be my next point that I wanted to segue to, Ace, is you look at a rebuild, and the Cubs honestly have done this rebuild thing right in a very short amount of time. 6 years removed from the World Series, you're now looking at a team that could be, as you said, a playoff contender.
Championship next year,
maybe. But you're looking at a team that could be a playoff contender this season, 6 years removed from the World Series. Especially in baseball, I don't think you can engineer a rebuild much faster or much more efficient than that. So I like what this organization's done. I love that Grandpa Ross is out there with this team because that still gives you a little piece of that World Series glory, right?
Now let's, I know I'm on the hype train of the Cubs, Cubby Chubby, all that stuff, but let's just say this is the best stretch this team has. And then they fall off, and it's just downhill. No shot Ross comes back as the skipper,
Manager
right?
next season.
Right, no shot, right? Because this is his 4th season, right?
It is. And it's crazy to me that they went to Grandpa Ross as soon as they did after he was removed from the team. He was only gone, 2 years, right?
2 years, yeah.
And then he came back as the manager. I thought it was a unique and interesting hire at the time for that reason. Like, okay, wow, they're entrusting a guy who was just here on the World Series roster to be the manager. And
breaking news. The Chicago Bulls won.
Of course they did.
105. So now when they get destroyed by the Milwaukee Bucks, and I have to listen to all the people up here talk crap, like I don't know that this Bulls team is trash. Like,
yep. So
but
we'll wrap the show up on our thoughts on the Bulls game, but back to our Cubs. I don't think Ross is back if this team is mediocre. If they're below 500 this season, I do believe it's time to move on. However, I don't believe they'll be below 500. I believe they'll be on the other side of that, and I believe that this team will at least be in the playoffs. How far they make it will determine what the longevity of the season looks like, obviously, but I see David Ross as the manager of this Cubs team for, I'm going to say, at least the next 3 years.
I mean, you hear good things. You know, you read about how he connects well with the younger guys that are coming up.
He's not falling asleep in the bullpen like some other Chicago managers were last year.
That's true. We're not talking White Sox tonight, but I mean, we can if you want to. I just wasn't planning on it.
They got dominated yesterday. There's not much
and they
to
got
talk
it's
about.
the same story, right? Same story. Injuries, not living up to potential.
We can stay on the Cubs hype train tonight. Maybe next
right.
week we'll talk some Sox for our Sox viewers.
But I agree. I think the Cubs are going to have an above average season, and I think Ross is going to get a little bit more recognition for how he's able to pull this team together. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a couple of these younger guys come up just for, some experience. I don't think they stick around on the main roster. I think it's kind of like, you're up, you play to fill a role for a couple weeks, and then you're back down. But
give you a taste and
right. And Ross has been that guy that they brought him in for that reason, because he was so well respected by the guys. He was one of the guys. He's smart. Most catchers are smart, and they're good coaches when they transition. I think
the guy engineered the dick bump. How can you not love him?
And he had one of the best home runs in Cubs history in the World Series. So I mean,
right,
he's a legend in himself. Grandpa Rossi. They carried him off the field after the World Series, and
so
I think
not to go back to 2016.
I mean, we can. That's what we do as Chicago sports fans. We go back.
But I do have to say, as sweet and as beautiful as the moment was when the Cubs won the World Series and it was finally over, that's a moment that will be enshrined in my mind forever. We got so lucky in 16.
Other shows that I had done in the past, I had talked about that and how if you really look at the playoff run that the Cubs had in 16, they were not hitting well at all.
No.
They would
sometimes
have
it's better to be lucky than good.
Right.
And they
would have
lucky.
A couple games where they would just be like zero hits, 0 runs. It was just bad. And then you'd have games where they throw 11 points on the board, and it's like, oh, okay, well, that's the team. And then they carry that momentum. You get a Miggy Montero grand slam that was pretty wild. It's just luck. Sometimes, I know they say luck is for losers, but sometimes a little kiss from Lady Luck can turn your whole day around.
Sometimes it is better to be lucky than good, my friend.
That's
I will say that, and I agree. But no, looking at this team that we've built thus far, I'm excited. It's obviously still way too early for us to say that the Cubs are going to win 100 games this year, but
yeah, I don't see that. But maybe. No, I don't think this season. I could see them.
I see them winning around, I'm going to say 85 games this season.
I was thinking like 89.
85,
still,
89, okay.
89 is
we're right there in the same range.
It's a good spot for them to land this season. And then you look into next season and you hope to hit that, that 95 range and higher, and then you're cooking, man. Then you got all this young talent coming up. There's really a lot of optimism.
If you win 95, you might as well win 100 and have a triple-digit season at that point.
You might as well. And if you're going to do,
know how difficult it is to win 100 games in baseball, Ace?
Very, very difficult.
Very.
Because
do you know how many teams have had 100 game seasons in the history of the MLB?
I'm going to look it up right now.
You look it up right now. It will floor you.
A 100 game winning season in Major League Baseball. All right, let's see. 114 teams out of the entire history of Major
League Baseball.
And that's a long time.
That is a very
From
long
1892
time. Until 2023.
That's a lot of baseball.
Over 100 years.
That was a lot of baseball that was played, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It
is
crazy. If you look at that, I would guarantee 60% of those 100 win plus teams were from Yankees, inception of the MLB to probably the 60s. It just doesn't happen like it used to anymore. But with that being said, man, I think it's an exciting time to be a Cubs fan. There's more good than bad going on in this organization right now, and I like it. It's the same thing that we can say about our Chicago Bears. Obviously, flipping the script over to football real quick. 1920 Football Drive is dropping. I saw the preview for it today, and I love watching that stuff.
I do too.
I like seeing the behind the scenes.
I'm a weird dude like that. I know a lot of people don't like Hard Knocks. I like watching it. I think it's cool. More football, more better. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, especially the XFL season is going to be over in 2 weeks. So
I know you're upset about that.
I am upset about that.
You were riding high on St. Louis.
All I'm saying is our St. Louis Battlehawks have only lost 2 games, my friend. They could be the first ever XFL Bowl champions.
XFL Bowl?
I don't think that's not what it's
called.
What
are they going to call it? So it can't be a Super Bowl. Maybe a Super Saucer?
No, it's
Super Cup?
I think it's just called the XFL Championship game. I don't think they have any.
Lame. They got to have a better name than that. But
so it doesn't matter because at halftime they're going to have Vince come out and yell, "This is the XFL." No. I can't do that. Everyone knows what I'm talking about.
They do know.
So
they do.
The St. Louis Battlehawks, my friend, have drawn the most attendance of any XFL team. They have the 3 highest attendance records at 35,000, 36,000, and 38,000 fans in the stadium. That's pretty impressive for some spring football, fella.
I mean, but St. Louis is so desperate for a football team.
St. Louis is a football city for sure.
Right. I mean...
And former Rams tight end Anthony Becht is the head coach of the St. Louis Battlehawks.
See, and that makes it even that much better. You got a St. Louis connection there. The team's playing pretty decent. I mean,
that they are, but I don't want to turn this into an XFL show because I could sit and talk about how AJ McCarron Roll Tide is playing excellent football and the Battlehawks are going to potentially make a deep playoff run and win the championship. I'd love to see it, but let's go back to our Bears for a minute.
Yes, please. I love Bears.
The draft is coming up, my friend, in 2 short weeks.
It's crazy. So fast.
Crazy to think that we're at that point.
Mm-hmm.
The Packers have still not gotten a deal done with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. And it seems like talks have stalled. So
yeah, I made a cool shirt I was
how
gonna
I want
wear.
to tie that back into the Bears.
Please.
If Aaron Rodgers, and it's a big if, somehow stays in Green Bay, this could be the year that the Bears finally sweep Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
I mean, you said it, not me. You said it, not me. That's all I'm gonna say. Like I live up here, right? So I got to deal with these people all the time. Yes, these people. Packer fans are a different breed of human.
Different breed.
The rest of us, like they go over there.
They're kind of like Philly fans, right?
Yeah, pretty close. But if Aaron Rodgers comes back, the Packers have made it crystal clear that Jordan loves the guy going forward. So I'm telling Rodgers, hey, man, you better talk to the Jets because even if you come back, you're just going to be backup.
There, no shot.
Yeah,
there
why
is
not?
zero
What's the
shot.
point? What is the point of running it with Rodgers again?
Okay.
Just to lose in the first round of the playoffs again?
There is absolutely zero shot that if Aaron Rodgers somehow stays on the Packers, they put him on the bench for Jordan Love.
I mean, crazy, maybe not crazier things have happened, but
crazier
why
things
not
have not happened.
Why not set the precedent? Hey, we're going to say, you know what?
Crazier things have happened. George Blanda used to smoke cigarettes and drink beer on the sideline at halftime. But
good old days.
Anyways, looking at our Chicago Bears, this roster is solidified on offense, in my opinion. Other than the line, you have a very good receiving core. You went out and got a guy in Deonta Foreman who is David Montgomery for half of what David Montgomery got.
Yep. If you look at the numbers, that's 100% accurate.
Khalil Herbert, excellent 1-2 punch in Foreman and Herbert, in my opinion.
Yeah, wasn't he the number one running back for a minute for yards?
Yes, he was for about 3 or 4 weeks.
And then he got hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he got me some big fantasy points last year.
Did.
Phil, I'll tell you that.
He did.
But no, looking at what this Bears offense has done, man, Ryan Poles is following the rebuild philosophy to a T. And it's so polar opposite of what we were used to in the Ryan Pace era. You know, me and my buddy went to lunch today and I was talking to him in the car on the way there. And I'm like, it's so refreshing to be a Bears fan and just, there's not a negative thing that I can say about our GM right now.
Not right now.
Not right now.
Not yet.
So now if he moves up one spot to draft a player we don't need that would not be drafted that high ordinarily, I will be frustrated. But
was that a Mitch Trubisky reference?
That was a Mitch Trubisky jab.
I mean,
just
he
one
who
more
shall
time.
not be named.
Yeah,
we don't speak of him on this show.
Maserati Mitch.
Maserati
drove a Toyota Camry. But anyways,
anytime Louis Riddick says anything about any player going forward, I don't buy it. What you call him, Mitch Trubisky, Maserati Mitch? Nope, you've lost all credit.
That's where that came from. Was Louis Riddick?
He called him Maserati Mitch, man, on Waddle and Sylvie, I'm pretty sure. And
you're right.
That did not live up to the hype.
That it did not. Ultimately, I'm excited with what the Bears are doing. I'm excited with what the Cubs are doing. It is a good time to be a Chicago sports fan, unless you're a White Sox fan. If you are, then I'm sorry.
I mean, White Sox or Bulls, but realistically, it's the same owner, and the teams are in the same exact position.
I mean, we're Bulls fans too, but ultimately...
Yeah, I'm a Bulls fan. Nothing compares to the United Center when that team is good. I remember just how exciting it was to watch the Derrick Rose Bulls, man, when they were consistently getting into the playoffs and consistently being good.
Yeah.
The crowd, the atmosphere is just fantastic. I can't wait till that comes back.
So fun fact, your boy Tarbill has never been to a professional basketball game.
Ever. I've never been to a
Ever.
Bulls game. I've been to a few Bucks games.
I've been to the United Center. I've just never been to a Bulls game.
I got tickets to a Bucks Heat game when Shaq was playing for the Heat because I was a huge Shaq fan growing up, and he got hurt the game before they played the Bucks, and I didn't get to see him play. That was a birthday present. I was pretty upset. Not gonna lie.
That's disappointing.
Yeah,
To tie this back into our beloved Chicago sports franchises before we wrap up for the night, the Bulls have done exactly what they needed to not do. They have managed to beat the Raptors and are now going to move on and get destroyed. And Angelo's going to have to hear about it for the next 6 weeks, if not longer.
The worst part is
by
my
our new
boss,
face of the network, Kev.
My boss
is a giant Bucks
massive Bucks fan. Like courtside, when the Bucks won the championship, he was on the court with them. Like he is a massive Bucks fan. So I hear about it all the time, all season, and now it's only going to get ramped up that much more.
Doesn't sound like it's going to be fun for our guy Ace over the next few weeks here, guys.
Nope.
The Bulls are going to get destroyed. It's going to be bad, and then we are going to realize, well, not us. We know. The national media is going to realize how bad this Bulls team really is come playoff time. And that the time is now. So
the time is now.
They're going to go get embarrassed real quick.
What do you think? How do you think this series goes? Bucks Bulls.
I think this series, I don't want to say is swept. I think the Bulls managed to win one game.
More faith.
What do you think?
Is Middleton playing? I don't know if Middleton's playing. If he's not playing, I think the Bucks lose one game. If he is playing, I think they sweep the Bulls. I think they sweep the Bulls.
Bring out the brooms.
But I mean, who knows? Because if Brook Lopez decides to go drop 40 points in a night, or Giannis puts up 50, like there's just so many guys on that team that produce.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
see any
absolutely
way
wild.
that the Bulls are going to be able to. I know the Bulls' defense is decent. I don't see how you keep up with the score.
The Bulls' defense gets shredded by Giannis every time they play.
Any center.
Giannis is just an animal.
Right. I mean, he's the best player in basketball. He is.
Whoa.
Who else?
Who else?
Yeah.
Steph Curry?
No shot. What? Yeah, listen. Don't make me defend the Bucks here, man. What Giannis does, nobody else does.
Luka Doncic?
Luka, I don't know, man. He's very ball dominant. Like if you're looking for when they acquired Kyrie, I don't know why they did that. Because you already had a ball dominant guard, and you bring.
I was going to say you've got two guys who are ball hogs, and it's
what's the
not
point?
working out,
right? But Giannis is a different animal, man. That dude is big. He's strong. He's
the Greek freak for a reason.
Yeah, man, the Greek freak.
No, I totally
fantastic.
understand.
I don't know how
he probably is the best player in the league.
I don't know how they stop him. I don't know how they keep up in scoring, to be honest, because
they don't.
They can't shoot, and the Bucks have a lot of 3-point shooters. So these games. I was looking at the stat from last year, and I think the average loss margin was like 15 points. That was their average loss margin for all the games in the playoffs against the Bucks, except the one game that they won.
That does not surprise me, and I think we're going to see a repeat this season.
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating. It's a frustrating time to be a Bulls fan, but we have lots to look forward to in the baseball and football segments. As always, guys, we appreciate you joining us tonight. We will have something big planned for the draft. We have to get that live coverage going for the third year in a row.
Maybe get a couple special guests here and there. I'm trying.
We got more to come on that, guys, in the coming weeks. But look forward to that draft show. It's something that I enjoy doing each and every year with you guys, Ace. And this season's going to be fun. I think we're going to see a lot of wheeling and dealing out of Ryan Poles in this Bears organization to maximize the efficiency of the picks that we have in the draft.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you as a Bears fan and I as a Bears fan should want, because we still have some holes to fill on this roster. Offensively, the line, defense, we got to get a big-time pass rusher.
It's
defensive line.
There's a lot more needs than ability to fix those needs for next season. So temper expectations, right? The hope is that they get a couple guys in this draft. Even if 3 or 4 of the guys that they draft turn out to be, I'm not saying all-star, Pro Bowl
starting caliber players.
Right. A guy like on the offensive line. If you get a starting caliber guy who can hold his own, you get a guy pass rush, that can get to the quarterback, something the Bears couldn't do. I mean, you're looking at a team that it'll be fun to watch.
The Bears will absolutely be fun to watch. Our Cubs are going to be fun to watch as well. So, although basketball is turning the wrong page and our Bulls are declining, our Blackhawks are in rebuild mode, it's baseball and football time. So let's be happy about those two
Always
things.
Football time. I talk football
all year round, 24/7.
My favorite sport.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it's my favorite sport.
But we appreciate each and every one of you for joining us this evening right here on Sport Court on the Undefeated Sports Network. If you are not doing so, go ahead and go over to our Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube pages. Give us a follow. Hit the notification bell on YouTube so you don't miss any of the great content that we have churning out of the network. We have our wrestling podcast starting up on Sunday evenings. We've got some other things in the works here as we acquire new talent here for the USN. So we appreciate you guys. Go hit that follow, like, and subscribe so you do not miss any of the content or announcements that we have coming in the next few weeks. As I said, we're going to have a big draft show as we always do, and we look forward to you joining us for that. Ace, it's been fun. It's been a good show tonight. Appreciate you, my friend, as always. And
always a pleasure. We'll
be back next week. Same place, same time. Look forward to you guys joining us then. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah!